I don't know about you, but I am super excited about fall coming soon. And Hero Arts has a great kit this month that features amazing fall blooms and bouquets. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in this video I'll be sharing the September Hero Arts My Monthly Hero main kit stamps, dies, and the add-ons, stamps, dies, and stencils. If you've seen any of my previous Hero Arts Kit Club videos, you know that I like to make sure that every supply gets some time in the video. So we're gonna go quickly through the card making and I'll share these new products along the way. Let's start by taking a look at the main kit stamps and dies. I absolutely love this stamp set. It has got a beautiful bouquet of flowers that can be die cut out, as well as some additional accessories that can be die cut and some great sentiments. There's also a background stamp. It's the 6x6 cling mounted rubber background stamp that is in the main kit as well this month. So you can create this really stunning brocade looking background, perfect for fall designs. So I have it in my original Misty here, and I'm going to use it with Versamark ink and then cover it up with some ultra fine Hero Arts clear embossing powder and just tap off the excess. And look at that, even just like that, it looks amazing. But you do have to heat set that, otherwise that powder will just come right off. So when you heat set that, you get that slightly darker image, plus it's shiny from the clear embossing powder. Love that subtle background. And then I just colored and die cut out the main image from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp on some craft cardstock. They have some craft cardstock in the main kit as well, and I'm going to pop that sentiment up on a slim piece of foam tape that I cut down to fit perfectly behind it. I'm going to put that sentiment right in the middle of the bouquet. I think this was such a fun card to put together, but so simple. Something really exciting that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video is that Hero Arts now has foil plates available in the add-ons this month. Super exciting. This foil plate has a leaf background for an A2 card. So I have it in my glimmer machine. You can see I put the foil down, then the cardstock, then the two plates, and it worked perfectly. So no overfoiling. This cardstock is the white hammer mill, no overfoiling there as well. This is the Leafy Branches hot foil plate. This is also available in the add-ons. And so I'm going to foil that too on some different colors of cardstock. I did put it on white here, and this one did overfoil on the bottom. I guess I could have trimmed the foil down, or I can just trim that cardstock down. So I made two backgrounds with that foil plate that has all the leaves on it, and I'm going to just turn both of them into quick cards. I'm going to use some stamps from the stamp set and just stamp one in black ink on white cardstock and one in embossing, and emboss it with white embossing powder on craft cardstock. And then I just trimmed those panels down to 4 by 5 1/4, which allowed me to cut off any excess that I hadn't foiled the right way, and then pop up the sentiment in the middle and mat them on coordinating colors of cardstock. So you can see how quickly, once you get all your foiling done, how quickly you can turn these into cards with just a sentiment. You don't need much more, because those gold leaves, or you could do kind of a copper color if you wanted, but they just look stunning in the background. Okay, next up, I'm going to use that other foil plate. I did die cut it out in a circle so that I could get rid of the overfoiling. And now I'm going to use the foil as a resist. This works really well with Distress Oxide inks because they're nice and creamy. They go on that background. Again, I'm using that hammer mill white cardstock. It's super smooth. And then if you do get any ink, just gently buff it away off the foil and you will see tons of foily shine on that inked background. I'm going to use a stamp from one of the stamp sets to stamp a sentiment right in the center, and I'm going to use Versamark and some white embossing powder. Just remember to use tons of anti-static powder tool to make sure that the ink in the background is nice and dry and doesn't stick to your embossing powder. I'm just going to pop up that circle, and then I have mentioned before how much I love the Hero Arts pearls, those liquid pearls. They come out so smoothly and nicely. They easily create rounded pearl-like embellishments, and the gold here just goes really, really well with the background. Okay, this is the Fall Leaves cover plate. So this is kind of the unique kind of cover plate. It does cut out the rectangle, but each of the little leaf images don't fully cut out. You just can pop up the sides. So first I am going to use some Distress Oxide ink to ink blend over the white. I have mustard seed, crackling campfire, and then aged mahogany. And I'm just going to go in and make sure I smooth out any of those lines. I'm going to use the Hero Arts water mister and just mist some water on that just so that some of that Distress Oxide look can really come to the front there, and that's why we use them, right? Because they're nice and water reactive. Once the panel's dry, I'm gonna pop up the sides of most of these larger leaves especially. This way you'll see kind of a peek at the background. I had just this extra piece of kind of a rose gold metallic, so I'm just gonna put this on top of that so that you can see a little bit of that rose gold in the background. It has just been sitting on my desk forever, and I thought this was the perfect time to use it. I'm gonna use one of the stamps from one of the stamp sets that says Sending Gratitude. I'm gonna stamp it in black ink on white cardstock and then just pop it up on some foam tape in the middle. Again, that background is so just multi-layered with dimension and color. You don't need much more. Let's move on to the Leaf Circle Stencil. This is a really fun one. I am going to tape it down on the back to some white cardstock. It's an A2 piece of white cardstock. And then I'm going to tape it down on the front. And I use pixie tape to do that from Thermoweb. Just make sure you press down to get some pressure to adhere the tape. Then I'm just going to use some mini shader brushes, and they will allow me to color in unique or little elements one at a time. So I will add a whole ton of fall colors, but the brights from the fall colors. So I have spiced marmalade and candied apple and twisted citron and mowed lawn, like definitely fall colors, but definitely the brighter ones. And when you pull it off, it is just so much fun. I wanted this stamp to be stacked on top of each other, so I did just cut it in between, just pull it apart a little bit so you make sure you don't cut any of the letters, and then I can stack that sentiment, Sending Gratitude, on top of each other instead of having it long. It was going to be too long for that opening in the center. I had cut the panel down to 4 by 5.5, so you see the craft cardstock on the side. Next up, this is the wood-mounted stamp. It's a Brocade. It's a really beautiful design. I am going to draw some pencil lines so that I can line up the stamp and stamp it multiple times on the left-hand side of an A2 piece of white cardstock. So I'm starting at the top. I probably should have started off the top, but that's okay. I'm going to end up trimming this panel down. Then I'm going to use the Foliage and Flowers fancy dies. These are so much fun. You can cut these out of white cardstock and ink blend them. I decided to cut them out of colorful cardstock today. So I cut the flowers out of yellow and the leaves and stems all out of green. I'm going to first stamp and heat emboss with gold embossing powder, a sentiment from one of the other stamp sets. And then I will heat set that, and I'm going to do that first so that I can then mat this on top of another color of cardstock. If you mat it first, your glue may melt when you use the heat tool on it. I've had that happen, or it's just gonna warp a lot. So I'm gonna pop up the flowers on little pieces of foam tape. I'm gonna use some thin pieces of foam tape for some of the leaves, and then some of them I will lay flat to the card using some liquid adhesive. But I do like the different layers of dimension on a card. I think that adds tons of interest. And that Brocade on the side is just so pretty. I had stamped it with indigo ink from Hero Arts. It is one of my favorite colors because it's just such a unique bright blue, and I think it looks great with yellow and green. And again, those pearls as the flower centers are the winning piece for me. I did want to show another way to use that initial background stamp that I shared in the main kit. This time I'm embossing it, and I used brass embossing powder. So brass definitely looks different than gold. You'll remember the gold definitely has a gold look. This is just different. So I like to have both because I think both are great in my arsenal, and I love the Hero Arts embossing powders. This is Maple Leaf window die. So it is going to cut out the inside, and I'm going to use some gold foil cardstock from Memory Box and just hold it in place with a pixie tape. The only thing about that was it did leave some residue at the bottom, but we'll handle that in a second. So this again cuts out the center of the window and then cuts out partial elements of the leaves so you can pop them up just like we did on the panel die. I just cut a piece of that brocade background. I'm just going to wipe off the excess of the anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to place it down at the bottom. And I just love the rich designs that are available in this month's main kit and add-ons. They are just stunning, and it's so easy to create really pretty, interesting cards. I had a couple of pieces of stamped images left over from the main kit that I hadn't used on my first card. So I'm going to color them in, and then they do have dies to cut them out, which is really nice. I probably should have done the stamping and heat embossing before I adhered everything down here for the sentiment, but it worked out if you just kind of flip it over so that the embossing powder doesn't get stuck in the sides. So that is just from the stamp set from the main kit as well. And then I'm going to pop up these little elements, the little pear and leaves and all that goodness. And then I'm going to add some of the white pearls as accents. So sometimes I'll use a white gel pen here, but this is a really nice element to add as well because it also adds that dimension. So you can just add little droplets on the fruits and then around the sentiment just to add an extra element of dimension and shine. Next up is the artichoke arrangement bundle. So you get the artichoke arrangement. There's tons of really pretty sentiments that you could use on this stamp set. You can use them with the other designs as well. And I stamped the arrangement in a Copic friendly or alcohol friendly ink, and I'm going to color it in this time with Copic markers. So the thing that I love about the artichokes is that look of where they kind of have green that goes into purple. And you know, honestly, the Copics really do a good job here of blending those two colors together. So what did I use? I used some greens, and then I used the BVs. So not a traditional purple necessarily, but those BVs are really great for that. Okay, next up is the Floral Flourish stencil. So this one, I am going to just stencil the whole thing in one color. So I'm using a domed foam blender. You can see it's very subtle. I could have used a darker color of purple. I kind of liked this subtle background, but you can choose. You can do definitely a darker color of purple over the purple. I tend to feel like when you have a bouquet like this with lots of colors, you don't want something too distracting in the background because it sort of takes away from the work that you did coloring in that bouquet, which, you know, as we all know, coloring is not like my forte. So if I'm going to do some shading and blending, I want it to stand out. And then last but not least, we have the Hero Pearls. Once again, I have been using these a ton and I still really love them. I love how they dry dimensional, they dry shiny, they have that pearlescent look, and they just come out of the bottle so easily, and they don't get jammed up in the nozzle either. Okay, this is the Autumn Arrangement. This is another wood-mounted rubber stamp. And the thing about those rubber stamps, right? Like, I understand that you don't necessarily have room for tons of them, but if you see an image like this, the details are so incredible that you can get from that red rubber. So I did stamp it in Versamark ink, and I covered it in gold embossing powder, and I'm just going to heat set that, but just look at those fine lines and details that you can achieve there. It's pretty incredible. So I am going to stamp and heat emboss that sentiment at top that came from one of the stamp sets. And once that's done, that's all in gold on white. I just wanted to add a little bit of salvaged patina. You can see I'm just really quickly circling around in the center just to add kind of a hint of color. And I love the way the gold, the salvaged patina, and that coral cardstock look together. Of course, summer was fun, but I am so excited about fall coming, so I had such a blast with these Hero Arts stamps, dies, and stencils, but I'd love to hear if you had a favorite today. Let me know in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. hold on, hold on. If you've seen any of my, get the words out. The words have to come out. Okay, one more time. One more time. A little too verbose, if you know what I mean. What else is new?